Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. The record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
For the record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orit Connor.
Good morning, and welcome to For the Record. Today is Wednesday, the 4th day of July, 2018. Celebration of Independence Day in the United States of America. A celebration that, unfortunately, we are unable to celebrate here in the Cayman Islands, and hopefully one of these days we will be able to celebrate Independence Day ourselves, because until that day arrives, we will always be the pawns and we will be the subjects of a superior country, a superior nation, and that superiority comes about only because we make ourselves inferior by believing, thinking that we cannot do things ourselves, that we have to rely on others. We can't have a stable economy. We can't have a politically stable government. We can't have a politically stable nation without the assistance of others. So sad, so sad. Independence Day for the United States of America. Many other countries celebrate their independence. We continue to remain subjugated by others. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman, and by extension, For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. For the Record is a show produced by the staff and the management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I am your host, Orit Connor, and you're welcome to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 9:30 a.m. Our phone lines are always open, and there's always someone there waiting to take your calls. This morning, it is the voice of Mr. Paul Akai who will take your calls. You can join us by calling us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flow. That toll-free number is 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. You can email us at For the Record. That is one word, For the Record, at candw.ky. You can call us on our WhatsApp number. That WhatsApp number is 925-3261. Sorry, I shouldn't say call us. You can send us a text message or leave us a voice note. If you leave us a voice note, then the contents of that voice note will be played during the course of the show as well. And of course, we will be streaming on YouTube. You can pick us up on YouTube. Subscribe to Radio Cayman live stream, and you can follow us on YouTube as well. So many ways that you can follow us today. We know that school is out now. Summer vacation is in until August, end of August, I believe it is. July, August, 2 months, 6. And some parents may be fortunate enough to be able to spend the whole summer with their children. Others may have to go to work. Children will then probably put into summer camps, which good activity for children as well, those summer camps. Many to choose from, some relatively inexpensive. You heard one that is sponsored by the UCCI and the CEC, $120 for that particular one. Children fed, STEM program in place and everything. So much to do during the summer. Some of you, no doubt, will take overseas trips as well, where some of you will decide it will be a staycation and enjoy life right here in the Cayman Islands. Today's Wednesday. Normally, Mr. Kenneth Bryan would be in today. He's off island. So we're going to have open mic all for the full 2 hours. We're going to have open mic. I was going to say all day, but I really can't stay here all day. I'm told we have one caller already. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yeah, good morning, Ozzy.
Good morning. How are you?
Extremely thankful in you.
I'm fine, thanks.
Okay. Since we got a little time now today, that's a good thing to have, eh?
Yep.
Okay, let's make good use of it. All right, I probably got 2 questions.
Go right ahead.
Okay. Who's our lawmakers in Cayman here? Do we have any local people, or we have all expatriates doing that?
When you say lawmakers, makes
our laws.
Well,
yeah.
our laws are made, passed in our legislative assembly. The process is that the party that, I hate to use the term in power, but the party who forms the administrative part of the government, the elected part of government, they occupy cabinet. So you have the ministers, and they also have councillors, but of course those councillors don't sit in cabinet. So the cabinet ministers will decide what legislation is going to go to the Legislative Assembly, and all of the members of the Legislative Assembly then decide whether or not what is called a bill becomes a law. After that, and they debate it in there, you hear it all the time, the debates, there may be some changes to the original bill that came to the Legislative Assembly from the elected arm of government, the cabinet. Eventually, that bill is approved. It then goes to the governor for the governor to assent to it. And once the governor assents to it, then it becomes law. So in essence, the process starts with our elected members who are part of the cabinet. It then goes to the Legislative Assembly, where all of the Legislative Assembly members will make a decision. If that decision says, yes, we want this to become law, then they approve that, but it then still has to be approved by the Queen's representative, the governor, which is normally done with after taking advice from the Foreign and Commonwealth Office in the UK. So some people will argue, caller, that at the end of the day, while we can decide what legislation we're going to bring to the Legislative Assembly, we do not, our Legislative Assembly is not supreme, because there is still some other entity, some other body that will decide whether or not it becomes law. So I hope that explains the steps to you.
Okay, maybe I should ask who drafts them then?
Okay,
who writes them? I think
right.
that was the question.
Okay, now who writes them? At the end of the day, there's a unit within government, legal department called legislative drafting, right?
Right.
But they don't decide what actually let's say, for instance, if you decide that you want to pass a law that all cars will we will drive on the right-hand side of the road as opposed to the left-hand side of the road, right?
Yeah, which would be wrong.
Right. Then the cabinet, if they decided that that's what they want to do, they would go to legislative drafting for them to put that in legal terms, in legal language, to ensure that it is compliant, that it doesn't conflict with other laws, that it is compliant with our Constitution and everything. So there's an arm called legislative drafting that does that. But the substance, the substance of the law is decided by the cabinet.
Okay, that was that question. Who does the drafting? I'm fully aware that it has to come down to the legislative, or it come down to our elected members, and then come down to the legislative assembly for being
debated and approved. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So forth and so on. Okay, that takes care of that. Okay, now the question here. Maybe I'll have three questions then. Let me get it clear here first. My name is James Ernie Banks the third, better known as Jimmy. And if that's the situation, that is the situation, okay, now that is well cleared up between you and me, O.C., thank you for explaining that very much.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is this a good chance now, since we have the acting governor,
mm-hmm.
Franz Manderson?
Yes.
Could we not request that we keep our first governor now that is acting? Can we not just request that we keep him as governor of the Cayman Islands by removing that acting part and just put in the governor of the Cayman Islands?
Mm-hmm. We could request that.
Okay, that's the question. That's the question.
Yeah, we could request it. Now the other part of that is whether or not the UK would approve it, and I would go out on a limb to say they probably would not. There is no situation that I am aware of in the overseas territories or during British colonial rule that they have, in effect, appointed as governor any indigenous individual to that post, to my knowledge. I stand to be corrected, but I don't think so. And I don't think that it will happen at the end of the day. Because
that's a good thought. I was thinking about it for quite some time now.
Yeah. I mean, if the United Kingdom were genuinely concerned about our future to the extent that they wanted us to really exercise the right of determination, they would do that. The excuse that the UK uses, and it's a good one, they say, if you want to full self-determination, you want full internal self-government, you want independence, we will give it to you, but it has to be the expressed will of the majority of the people of the islands. I think that is a cop-out. That is a cop-out. I think at the end of the day, the UK can look at a situation and say, you have been our colonies all of these years. You have demonstrated your ability to run your own affairs and everything. We believe that if you want to, that you should move towards independence. But they won't say that. They couch it and say, yes, you can do it, but it has to be the majority of the will of the majority of the people.
I just thought I would get that question in there.
Yep, it's a good thing. Yep. And bearing in mind, also, Jimmy, that whether or not having a Cayman Islands governor, the optics of it may look good. It may sound good as well, but bear in mind that at the end of the day, the position of the governor is the Queen's representative. The governor takes advice, has a boss themselves. They have a boss. The governor has a boss. So in very few instances, if any, is the governor allowed to act solely on his own without seeking the advice or seeking directions from his boss, who would be the foreign minister. That would be his indirect boss. The direct boss would be the minister for the overseas territories, who answers then to the foreign secretary.
Yeah, but then I don't think, just a question, and I always heard from a long time ago about, boys, stop asking foolish questions. Anytime somebody can prove to me that it's a stupid question, something wrong with that person, because I not believe it.
I agree with you. I'm going to let you ask this one, and I'm going to answer it after, because we have to go to a commercial break. So I'll let you ask the question, and then it'll sit there until we return.
That's it, man. Why not we just ask our dear Queen Elizabeth II that we love so much?
Mm-hmm.
Can we have our acting governor manage him to become the governor of the Cayman Islands?
Okay.
Let's see what the people would say.
Okay. Got you there.
Just
thank you very much.
For them to talk about.
Right. Thank you very much for that, folks. We have to go to a commercial break. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
Yeah, you relax and have yourself.
Yep.
It's a good thing you can have a full day at this, because you have a lot of calls.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. Apologize to our listening and viewing audience there. We had a little technical glitch for a few minutes there. I think we have it all sorted out now. We have one caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Morning, Mr. Orrit. Good morning, OC.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm asking you to give me at least 3 minutes on your radio. I
yeah.
experienced something yesterday that it was not nice. So I want to talk to you about the first responders in the Cayman Islands. Now, I'm calling regarding about the fire station again, and an incident that happened at the Cayman Airways yesterday outside. We had a stabbing yesterday outside of Cayman Airways, and there was a little 16-year-old guy, I'm not going to call no names, that ran and had his leg stabbed. I came outside, and I'm going to be quick with it so, you can get on with your show. And I assisted in this and tying up the legs and everything. So there was no help. There was an elderly lady on the phone, so she started to almost crying in tears. So I took the phone from her, started talking to 911. I used her scarf to tie up his leg because it was in bad shape where he was stabbed. Now the guy's lying on the ground, and I asked someone to help me tie it up tighter. There came a fire gentleman by the name of Bradley. I know him by the name of Bradley. I got to give him kudos to him. He did a great job with assisting me. So I said to them, why don't you call your fire guys next door with their first aid kit so they can assist and let them help you? So I'm on the phone with 911. He calls the fire department, which is 2 seconds across the street from Cayman Airways main office, right? You know the location. I was listening to them. They replied, oh, we're not coming, because the ambulance is on their way. So the ambulance was just dispatched, and there was 5 o'clock traffic, and there was a lot of traffic. And I said to him, aren't they coming? And I was listening. They said, no, they're not coming. The ambulance is being dispatched from the hospital. I'm wondering if the fire department is trained for first aid. Aren't they trained for rescue? What is our rescue system about? Are they trained to do CPR? Are they trained to do wounds? When they go on an emergency to a house and the fire breaks out and someone is in distress, are they trained to save those people's lives?
I do believe they are. I do believe they are.
So what it is with the issue with them assisting person on the street next door to them. I know they assist a lot of people on the public beach once they hear is a tourist and in distress. They're the first on the scene, so I'm sure they're equipped with CPR. I am sure they're equipped with the bandages and all of that stuff that's needed for their job.
And I'm sure, caller, that one of the reasons why they're referred to as first responders is the first ones to get there.
But they were right across the street.
Yes.
And you know what I had to do? I tied the guy leg up, and then I elevated it. Then he held that up for about 20 minutes, the leg. No one came from across the street, 2 steps from the fire station, to assist this child. And I'm going to tell you now, we Caymanians, your radio station, say that we are the people. We need to speak out. That's what your talk show is about. I am speaking out about it. Because if we don't speak out about it as a Caymanian, I live here for all the days of my life, and we got first responders, and they're not responding to their Caymanian people. This is the second time I had this incident happen with me. And every time it happened, and every time I see it, every time it comes up, I am going to speak about it. I don't care. I am going to talk about it, because if 911 and the fire station department does not work hand in hand, how is it going to work on this island with us? They are about saving people's lives. Why did they not come over next door yesterday? That little boy lost a lot of blood at his age. And
do you know how long it actually took after you spoke
20 minutes.
That was after they spoke to someone at the fire station?
Yes, that fireman, the fireman named Brandon must have came off of work, and he was walking, and he came over and assist me, because no one would touch the boy in the blood. And I touched him, and I washed my hand with bleach afterwards, because we're human. We're not animals. And I expect them that when they hear a call, you know what they said to him? We heard it call on the radio, and they've dispatched an ambulance. Don't they have an ambulance next door also? Do they have equipment also?
Well, I'm sure that there must be protocols in place, but
I don't know if they were in place yesterday, because nothing wasn't in place.
Right, but if they're so close to the incident and they're able to respond first, because it could have been a life-threatening situation. That person could have possibly bled to death. You know.
Exactly.
I trust, caller, that people are listening to this. I think there's enough on Facebook about it that either the chief officer responsible for that particular department will conduct an internal investigation to determine exactly what occurred and why they failed to respond, and to ensure that it doesn't happen again.
Mr. Connor, I just want one last sentence.
Very quickly.
This is the second time it happened. You know the incident happened with the boating already.
Yes, familiar.
And this is the third time. So why are we calling our people out for assistance? We have to call neighbors, we have to call friends, and we have to call the next person that walking by the street. Hey, come help me, please. And we have those people. What are they getting paid for? What are they doing their jobs? Why can't that fire station do their job and assist the people? What is this new fireman, the chief, is doing about this?
Okay.
He listened, you know what? I'm going to get all of those recordings now, everyone starting from ABC, and put them together and replay them on your station and every other station until they do something about this. They need to step up to the plate and do their job.
Okay.
Why are you holding them down?
Yeah, caller, we have to go now. We're right at 8 o'clock break.
Thank you.
But thank you very much for that. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back immediately after the 8 o'clock news. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We have no guests in the studio this morning, so we're having open mic all day. When I say all day, that means until 9:30. I have received one message from one of our listeners. It's pretty long, but I'm going to try to read most of it and maybe paraphrase in areas where I can. It says, good morning. What I don't understand is, why do we need cheap labor companies to guard our government buildings? Why not give the Caymanian the full benefit and recognition? We should do it the way we used to do it. We have to keep in mind that if the guards are employed by a company, the training and the way their pay is controlled by the company as well. There shouldn't be a tendering process for companies to do such a job in the first place. The same thing should apply for the government schools. We need guards who know the way our kids think, and who will really care about the future of our young people. Most permit holders are mostly focused on their pay and benefiting back home. To them, Cayman is more like a money tree. Pick and leave and wait until it grows again to pick more. And that's the truth by my own experience working with some permit holders in these companies. So, question is that government should employ Caymanians as opposed to having a tendering process to get companies to bid for the security work at government buildings, including schools. I would imagine that the government is probably doing what those in the private sector do, which is instead of having to pay pensions, to provide medical benefits to those individuals, you contract a company, you pay that company, and they take on the responsibility of then having to pay pensions, having to provide medical benefits and everything else for their employees. If there are sufficient Caymanians who want to work as security guards, and if we have the proper training process for them, and I say that guardedly simply because someone could counter and say, well, many of the security guards who come here are not necessarily trained. They may come with letters and certificates showing that they may have worked as security guards before or been trained as security guards before, but how much can we rely on that? Is that reliable information? But I would say if we have sufficient Caymanians to do those jobs as security guards, willing, able to do so, that could be done. But the government is going to look, well, I shouldn't say it this way. I'll say it this way. Government will have two options. Do we want to provide employment for Caymanians, take on the additional responsibility of providing pensions, sharing in a pension scheme, providing medical benefits for them? Do we want to do that? We may still have to do that anyway if they're unemployed. We see now what is happening with the health care costs and everything else. So something that the government may want to consider. I think we have a caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning. Am I on air?
Yes, you are.
Good morning, OC. I thought I should give you a call after a long time.
Yes, good morning. How are you?
This is Bill Simamba. Fine, thanks. Now, a few things I have. I'll try to be brief. I listened to your, I think it was your first caller who talked about, who asked how the laws are made.
Yes.
And I must commend you. You gave a very good account of briefly, of what takes place. And, of course, you would know. I used to work with you on some of these things and so on.
Definitely.
Yeah. Now,
thank you.
Well, yes. Now, the other thing I was going to say in relation to that is, you see, government, in my view, has not done enough to try and train people, both in government and to acquaint people outside government about that. When I was in government, I actually developed a little course which was specifically meant more for government people, like how legislation, first of all, is conceived up to the very end. Now, very few people, I think, for example, know that there are about 31 steps from the time that you conceive of a policy to the time that it is published in the Gazette in readiness for introduction in the LA. Just up to that point, it's about 31 steps. And I had developed, of course, a book, a PowerPoint, and a binder and so on, and I tried to teach it. But the reason I bring it up in relation to what that caller said is because although one part of government was willing to allow me to teach that, another side of government were not allowing me to teach it. So it was not taught.
I recall that.
Yes,
quite
you recall?
vividly, yes.
Exactly. And of course, I sought judicial review. And when I sought judicial review, it was not successful. But that brings me to... Pardon me?
Go ahead.
Yeah. That brings me to another major point, which is the difficulty in Cayman with getting justice. It's very hard to get justice. In that particular case you are talking about, I had to seek judicial review. In the course of seeking judicial review, there was disapproval from certain quarters of government. I have on my Facebook page, for example, an email which was not confidential written to me personally by the AG, basically threatening me if I bring a court action. If you want to have a look at it, it's on my Facebook page.
Okay.
I applied it to the Civil Service Appeals Commission. They said they had no jurisdiction to deal with the matter, and then they dismissed it, and then they said, well, you go to the portfolio of the Civil Service. I went there. They never responded to me after reminders. I went to the DG. DG said, well, there's nothing they could do about it. Okay, and that's why in the end I went to court. And when I went to court, I got leave from one judge. Then it went before the Chief Justice. Then it went before an acting judge. They tried to hear it in chambers. I refused. It was heard in open court and so on. And to me, you see, I think government should stop this nonsense, and I want to be very emphatic about this. Telling people that, you see, we have created all these institutions, and you can go there and complain, and you are going to get relief. And yet what they do, when you try to get relief from these bodies, they block you in every way possible. I can tell you right now also, without mentioning a name again, I have a complaint before the Medical and Dental Council, which they did not decide upon for a year, 3 months. I complained to the Complaints Commissioner. And at the end of 1 year, 3 months, they said, we are dismissing your case. There's no merit. No decision, no due process whatsoever. Okay? And every time you raise these issues, it is said, well, you see, there is a problem with your particular case. But in the end, they don't even give you due process. Let me just, as I'm about to end now, you see, in this particular case, I complained against a doctor. Up to now, I have never seen what the response of that doctor was. And I've never seen it. And after I pushed them hard, at the end of a year, 3 months, all they told me is like a 1 paragraph letter, 2 paragraphs saying, we have dismissed it because it's got no merit. That is nonsense. And now, that is another matter which I may have to take to court because now I'm sick and tired of these people. Let me mention the last case of the police officers in the police, those who claimed that there was discrimination against them. They won the case before the tribunal, and then they went to court.
Yes.
And the judge has now ruled that there was no discrimination. Now, that decision is very unfortunate.
Wow.
You remember the decision of Hutchinson Green, the famous PR case, where the Chief Justice said, well, look, that the court has got a heightened duty to scrutinize executive decisions if they feel that human rights are involved. And that really put a lot of pressure on government. And what we have done with this case, with this acting judge, she has taken us back now because all she said, well, look, the Commissioner of Police knows what the requirements are. If he decides to give contracts to certain people and others, well, it looks like they had a little bit of extra qualifications. And yet a modern way of looking at discrimination is that, you see, discrimination very often, they try to camouflage it in some way. They'll give contracts to 9 people and then give 1 contract to another one, just so that they can say, oh, we gave to
token, yes.
A token one. So you have to be able to do that. And I think that government needs to look more into access to justice. Last one now. I have a case again in a court of law. 2 years, 10 months. A judge has not delivered a ruling. 2 years and 10 months. Haven't delivered a ruling. And this is the same judge who was found drunk on West Bay Road. And I would have loved Mr. Kenneth Bryan to be on today so that I can ask him 2 things. Do they think in government now that perhaps it is time that the legislation regulated how long a judge should take to deliver a judgment? In some countries, they've done that.
Okay. That.
One, and secondly, they should make a policy. If a judge is caught in the way that particular judge was caught, drunk driving in those circumstances, should they continue in office? And that is my last point.
Okay. Before you go, though, Billy,
Yes.
First, I must remark that a person with your background, your legal background, if you're having difficulty navigating the processes here and having difficulty with these quote unquote institutions that support democracy, with your background, can you imagine what the little man on the street that we normally refer to, what kind of difficulties they must have in navigating the waters?
Exactly.
And then my question also in relation to legislative drafting. Mm-hmm. We know that some people view it, especially those in the profession, you view it as sometimes a boring job, sometimes a difficult job. Why is it that we don't have more Caymanians who are attracted to the whole, to legislative drafting?
Yeah. I think, OC, there's two answers to that. One of them is that in any jurisdiction you go to, people don't like, as you know very well, to get into legislative drafting because it is considered to be very poor training for general practice later on. Mm-hmm. You are always in the law and you learn so much law, but you tend to lose touch with the procedures of the courts and this and that and so on. So a lot of people don't want to do that for very long because it's not very good training for that. So that happens in every jurisdiction. For example, I only went into legislative drafting by accident, actually, and you will find that a lot of drafters went into drafting by accident. That's the first answer. Secondly, in relation to Cayman, there is, in my view, no desire, at least in the portfolio of legal affairs, I don't know about government in general, to encourage people to do that. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You have one person there who I won't name, who has been there for close to 10 years now. I think she has been in the portfolio for 10 years. I think by August, she would have been there for 10 years. And she has been in drafting specifically, I think, 7 or 8 years and so on. She went to England twice and got training. She's got a master's. She's got degrees and this and that.
I know the individual. Yes.
Exactly. That person, I want to be very candid, has been suppressed. Up to now, she has never even gotten a single little increment. Forget about promotion. And positions, meanwhile, are being given to people without advertising, and she's being told you don't have enough experience. In the country I came from, I was head of department at the end of 10 years. Okay, I was head of department at the end of 10 years. Mm-hmm, and I think that just in the portfolio of legal affairs, they do not want Caymanians there. It doesn't matter whether it's a legislative drafting or not. That's why I believe there's no Solicitor General as well, because they don't want the Caymanians. Yes, I believe so. So, anyway.
Well, Billy,
that's my answer on those.
Thank you very much. I'm going to be talking, if I have enough time, about the swearing in of the new president of the CCJ that will take place at the head of CARICOM, head of government meeting in Montego Bay, Jamaica as well. And we'll probably want to solicit your views later on. So if you continue to listen as to why so many of our Caribbean countries are reluctant, are hesitant to join the CCJ. Now, I know many of them have to amend their constitutions to do so. I think Grenada is in the process of going to a referendum to do that fairly soon. But when I start to talk about it, if you're listening in, please feel welcome to call in about it again.
Yes. Thank you very much, Ossie. I appreciate it. I'm listening.
Thank you very much, Billy.
Bye-bye.
Please take care. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. No guest in the studio this morning, so we're going to have open mic for the entire show. I'd like to read an appeal that we have just received in relation to a particular incident. It says, I'm here asking for help for the fire person. Just learned a while ago that a friend of mine was also in the house fire that occurred in West Bay. They're reaching out for clothes and household items for this individual. It's a female. Says anyone out there who can assist to let the individual know. She's medium, size medium in clothes, not sure what size shoes, but as soon as the person finds out, I will let you all know. Please have help the fire victims. Then it says shoe size is 8 and 9. The person has given me a phone number, but I'm not sure whether or not they want me to announce that phone number on the radio. If the individual is listening in, please indicate to me if you want me to circulate your phone number so that those persons who wish to assist can call you. So please do that. I don't want to give that number out before I do so. We have 3 callers, so we're going to start to take those calls now. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. Connor.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Still hanging in. I hope you can help me on this one. I'm trying to find out. I called the license department. I don't know how many times. I can't get an answer about this license, these new license plates.
Yes, sir.
I don't know. I've heard all kind of things on the Mar Road, how you go about it, but I can't. I've been calling the traffic department because my number is 166069.
Can you repeat that again?
166069.
Mm-hmm.
And some people is telling me that you have to wait on that. You'll get the same number, and you have to wait on that. But how would I know if they want if they don't publish it in the paper or put it on the air sometime when your license plate is coming up? Is being close that you can go and receive it.
Yeah. When did you last register your vehicle?
In April of this year. Nobody said anything to me about changing my getting new plates or anything. I went there, I paid the fee, got my sticker and everything, and nobody said anything to me at the 8th day of April.
And I registered mine at the end of May of this year as well. A year ago when I registered it, I think they were starting the process. And I believe that and you may not have access to a computer and to be able to log on, but I'm told that you can actually go on to the licensing website, and I believe if you insert your license plate number or something like that, you'll be able to tell whether or not those plates are ready to be collected. But I will check on that for you, and I will announce it over the air or contact you directly to let you know the situation with that, Captain Paul.
I thank you so much. I'm old-fashioned. I have nothing like no internet, no anything like that. I'm
Sure.
old-fashioned, so I'm dependent on some on funds. They should announce that on the radio or sometime periodically when there's people are listening. You know when it's time for you to go and get your license. This is very inconvenient for me to have to go up there. I was planning going yesterday, but I don't know just what to do. So I hope somebody's listening.
We'll try to find something out for you. Between now and Friday, I'll have some a response for you on that, Captain Paul.
Thank you very much, sir. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too. Before we go to the next caller, in relation to the person who was fire victim in West Bay, and they're reaching out for clothing and household items for them, you can contact Miss Carmelie Watson. That name again, Miss Carmelie Watson. Her number is 917-3729. Any assistance that you can render in relation to clothing, size medium in clothing, and size 8 and size 9 in shoes, call Miss Carmelie Watson, 917-3729. And we know that the Cayman community will reach out and assist anyone who is in need. So please, again, step up to the plate and assist those who are most vulnerable in our society and those who are most needy as well. Let's go back to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. For the Record.
Hey, morning, Doc. How are you?
Good morning. This is Steve McPhail here.
How are you, Doc?
Well, I'm fine. All right. In relation to the call about the security guards at the
government buildings.
Government building.
Uh-huh.
I understand what you said about government making it easier to hire a company to supply security guards,
Mm-hmm.
so that government does not have the problem with pensions and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, you are in a very powerful position as the host of one of two radio stations that that emit and put out messages to people to change things, to nation building. You're in a very powerful position. But I don't agree with you that is the only solution. You know as well that we have been discussing indefinitely when I was on your show and Teresa Pitcairn was on your show, the components of the Constitution that deals with the rights of humanity and democracy, especially Section 16, that says that if government says that people who work in the public service have to be Caymanians, that's not discriminating against other people.
Right.
Well, why doesn't the government do that? I mean, there are a whole lot of retired Caymanian policemen who that would be just up their alley. They have the training in security and they have the training in safety and stuff. Why does the government hire them instead of hiring all these other people from Asia and all these other places come to be security guards in our public buildings? Why doesn't the government do that? And all they have to do is pass the law to say so. And if they're short of those people, they could have an exemption in the law.
And that's what the writer was talking. That's what the writer was saying, exactly the same thing that you're saying, Doc.
Yes,
and what I said was not really. I was saying that the government is probably doing what the private sector does, but I wasn't advocating for. I wasn't supporting them in terms of what they're doing.
But you should be supporting what's Caymanian. You should be supporting what the Constitution says that we can do. That's what you should be supporting vehemently, and driving government away from what the private sector does, because the Constitution protects us from the private sector, and the Constitution says that those jobs and all the government services, if the government says it should be Caymanian, you can't take the government to court because you're not Caymanian, and they're protected from discrimination.
Now, I may not have said it as extensively and as eloquently as you did, Doc, but I did say that if there are Caymanians who are willing and able and get the proper training, that they should be the ones that are hired.
There are a whole lot of police officers and prison officers, Caymanian prison officers and Caymanian firemen who are retiring. That would be a good job for them.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're coming with the experience. They don't need the training.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The only thing I want to say is that one of the reasons why you have no draftsmen in Cayman, because they have never opened up their doors to Caymanians to do those jobs. I can do drafting, or Marion can do drafting. Several of us can do drafting. It's not difficult, We took all these courses at university and in law school. You remember in 1991 when the constitutional commissioners came here, we drafted a constitution for them to give them because we didn't want to talk about the constitution in abstract.
And we have a very prominent QC, a female QC, who worked at one Caymanian who worked in legislative drafting as well, and I think that when she went to law school, that was one of the areas that she concentrated on.
And on your very own show, I think it was your show. I think it was your show, or maybe another radio show. Some of the guests there from the British Virgin Islands and all those other Caribbean territories confirmed that it was myself and a gentleman called Mr. Wheatley from British Virgin Islands that drafted the foundation for what's now the British Overseas Territories Association.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You see, so we don't get any accolades for what we do, and so forth. And so Caymanians are now fading back into the woodwork because they have been put down and thrown around so much now that they seem not even to get the accolades that even the Caymanian seamen got when they went abroad. Mm-hmm. Another thing is
very quickly, Doc.
Well, I can't be very quickly.
We still have a couple of other persons queued up.
Yeah. Another thing is why the Caribbean countries are reluctant to join the CCJ.
Mm-hmm.
It's because of the corruption around and in politics around the Caribbean. There are too many corrupt politicians who had access to and power in appointing judges,
mm-hmm,
and they don't feel comfortable with that. At least if you go to the Privy Council in England, they far away from the Caribbean. They don't know you, and they don't really care who you are, and you can't manipulate them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one of the reasons why they rather the safety of the Privy Council than the CCJ in the Caribbean, where corrupt politicians can appoint their friends and push under the table ideas of how they want cases to go and things like that. That's one of the reasons why they have not.
Good point. Thank you very much for that, Doc. I think we have to take a commercial break, Paul, first before we take the other callers, but we're going to ask those callers, please hang in there. We will certainly take your call as soon as we return from this short commercial break. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. Going straight to the phone lines as promised. We have two callers, I believe. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Morning, OC. It's Johan Moxham. How's it going?
I'm fine. Morning, Mr. Moxham. How are you?
I just thought I'd ride gun with you a little bit whilst I'm in traffic and pick you up on some of the points that you made at the opening of your show with regards to it being July the 4th, Independence Day in the U.S. and the significance of that.
Great.
And contemplate what that could potentially look like for us here in Cayman if and when the inevitable happens and we are forced or we decide to walk that path. Having said that, sir, I always admire the positions that you take for being a civil servant. It's kind of strange to hear somebody speak as bravely in defense of Cayman. That just doesn't really happen too often. So good on you in doing so. You are our Black Panther on the air, for the want of a better word.
Thank you. Quite apropos.
Having said that, sir, when we look at what the future of the Cayman Islands look like, we hear, and again, I will give the Jack his jacket and agree with the Premier on his last trip, I think it was, to the UK, where he said that independence is inevitable and so is death, but he'd like to delay both for as long as possible. I think that's a sensible course of action to consider, because the reality in the Cayman Islands is we are nowhere near being ready for that monumental step, constitutionally, socially, mentally, in a variety of different areas for that. Where I think we need to move from accepting that we're not ready for that step is everybody, red, green, purple, independent, whatever, and anybody that calls themselves a Caymanian and is proud to call this place home, we need to start talking, having a national discussion on what that could potentially look like and what the timetable for that could potentially be.
Yep.
Is it 15 years? Is it 25 years? Is it 30 years? But delaying the inevitable and just talking around the issue without preparing our people at a variety of different levels for this is, I think, paramount. But it's politically expedient for the status quo to remain, at the that have never had this type of job, much less make this type of money ever. So, that's really what the game is for a lot of them. And those that are veterans that have seen it all and done it all, it's almost as if they're jaded and indifferent to the plight of Caymanians. So at various levels, you look at education, you look at employment, you look at the training and development of Caymanians. We aren't there. We haven't been there. And the same people that are now contemplating radical changes in the system have been a part of the same governance model and elected for the better part of 20 to 30 years. And they have been directly responsible for the failing or the failures in having Caymanian people ready. When you consider the fact that you had a caller like Mr. Billy Samamba, the system of governance and justice in Cayman, it really is who you know and what you represent. If you look at how decisions get made around here, there are classes within classes within classes. And unfortunately, you might be our Black Panther on radio, but you probably, and I'm just using you as an example because it's the safest thing, there are times where people, minority native Caymanians, don't get a chance because of what they look like, where they're from, what their last name is about, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And our elected officials have known this has been the system for a very, very long time, but they've been afraid or they just are comfortable and complacent with how the system is because they and their own and their friends and their key supporters get looked after, but the vast majority of the country gets left behind. So for us to even contemplate how we're going to chart the next 30, 40, 50 years of the Cayman Islands, there has to be a greater sense of unity. I'm as patriotic as the next Caymanian. I think I love it as much as the next Caymanian. But when you look at how decisions get made, Mr. OC, the reality in Cayman is this. You might be friendly with a particular politician or in favor with them, so you'll get an opportunity to opine, help, and craft where we go. But those that can actually help or want to help, because they're not favored or friendly or whatever, they are completely annexed. So you're developing a country based on the views of purely yes men and those that have financed your campaign and those that prop you up and those that you are beholden to, because that's what it takes to get elected. And when you look at that, we have an opportunity to do this thing completely different and better than all of our regional neighbors. If we don't learn the lessons from the Bahamas, from Jamaica, from Barbados, and so on and so forth, we have failed as a people, and our leadership has failed us. So what I'd like to hear is how serious is the government and the leadership, and I don't mean the elected leadership, but I mean the leadership of this country in preparing for that day. Because when you see the decisions that are getting made and the things that the FCO have no qualms at all in directing to you, when you can have legislators in the UK Parliament basically have no clue about why Cayman is successful, where Cayman is, and the Caymanian way of life, but yet they have the power to legislate what is best for us, that is very scary. Again, I'm going to give you an example.
Caller, gonna ask you to abbreviate it very quickly. Yeah.
Just let me make this point. The fact of the matter is the Cayman Islands is being held standard in the financial services industry, offshore financial services, from an AML and beneficial ownership perspective, that the UK themselves don't hold themselves to that standard. And instead of making that point and lobbying and using PR and our own strategies to show the world the hypocrisy and the duplicity of that, we're contemplating now having with the UK to try and get them to remove Section 125 of our Constitution, which underpins the entire relationship between Mother and the Cayman Islands. So when you consider what our focus is, it isn't on protecting the thing that gives us a chance to survive. It's on the political constitutional thing that protects a select few instead of working towards the benefit of the majority. Because if you aren't linking your scholarship awardees and those that are coming home to this new program work and all the rest of it, you're going to have a bunch of educated people that don't have jobs because nobody decided that the right hand should connect to the left and understand and build a plan with a national manpower survey, with a national economic development plan, with an actual physical infrastructure development plan. These things aren't happening, yet we're contemplating and having a conversation about independence and more autonomy. Unless you get the basics right, you can't start at the roof and think you're going to have a good house. It has to start at the foundation. And right now, I don't hear our leadership speaking to those issues and protecting the things that make the Cayman Islands successful.
Thank you very much, caller, for that. We have to go to our 9 o'clock headline news. I hope we still have that other caller on there. They've been waiting for quite a while, but as soon as we return from this very short break, we're going to take the other caller as well. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. Big shout out to Brown Sugar of Watering Place, Paula Rose Scott, listening diligently as usual to us. Big shout out to her as well. Let's go to the phone lines. We've been keeping that caller waiting for so long. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Our apologies.
Really?
Yes.
It's been 2 minutes.
Wow.
Good morning.
Good morning there.
Only because I love my station right. Hold on.
I know.
So that's why I'm holding on, driving around. OC, good morning. I just heard a tail end of you I'm talking about when I'm closed for those people in West Bay.
Oh yes. And
No,
I was going to say, I'm going to say that they're saying now that they're really looking for all of the victims of the fire as well. Originally, the message that I got had to do with a lady who was medium-sized, and I think this was a friend of the person who sent the notice to me. But now they're making an appeal for all of the victims.
Any 4-year-old boy or anything in the age, I wonder?
I'm not aware of it, but I'm sure that the person is still listening in. So
okay,
if they can pass that.
Out.
Okay,
I'm
yes.
going to give my number out.
Okay.
They can call me at 928-0995. 928-0995. And
928-0995, yes.
Or see, your station, your commercials are being paid for by the people who
they pay for spots. Yes. That's how it's financed. Yes.
Okay. No wonder we can't get no more time to get on the radio. But anyhow, I just wanted to say that our cable company here on the island, a partner from day one, we got a couple Cayman stations on these cables, like Cayman, the government station, and a couple other stations in regards to advertising the Cayman Island, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know them. I'm just so puzzled to know that you have cable with a company, and you pick a package, and every package you pick has all of these local stations for the Cayman Island advertising the Cayman Island.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any against advertising my island, but to see that you're going to pay for your cable every month, and you got about 5 stations, out of that is local Cayman stations, and I have to pay for that. As a taxi driver, I am advertising my island every time someone sits in my car. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
We do not have any contacts with the restaurants, hotels, or whatever the case may be. I don't know if they have to do an organization for it, or I don't know what they got to do, but I'm not interested in them giving me anything back in return. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
By the fact of me, we're not being acknowledged as ambassadors for the island. Me alone pays $300 and change every year to get my license updated, and I work to make my money back by doing tourism. You understand?
You're right.
And I know that when I tell my visitors about my island, they tip me. Don't get me wrong. By the fact for being to be an ambassador for this island, and tourism is one of our biggest pillars in the island. I really truly believe that the tourism board needs to do better when it comes to us being ambassadors and advertising our island to our visitors and getting back to the station of having so many Cayman local stations put into your package at a package at the cable company,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
you got 4 and 5 Cayman stations in there, and I have to pay for them because you can't get it without it. But
Yeah.
yet you can't sometimes find 2 decent movies to watch. Isn't that something?
So
I
you
wanna see
feel that
someone elaborate on that.
local content should be free.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And you got like 4 or 5 of them there in your package when you go and take a package with these cable companies. But anyhow, I just thought I would throw that out there. I think it's a really report. And I hope someone call me at 928-0995 and you got some clues for
9280995.
Right. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
I have this is a very good question here. Says, hello, good morning. Question. I keep hearing, Lord. Hello, good morning. Question. I keep hearing Jamaica is independent. And if it is so, why does it have an appointed Governor General from the UK? That's incorrect. So what's the difference between the Commonwealth, state, British Overseas Territories? Please tell me why. Okay, here's the situation. Those countries that were former colonies of former British colonies, not only in the Caribbean, but places like in India, Bangladesh, in Africa, Ghana, Nigeria, Sudan, various places. When they gained their independence, what was formed prior to that was something called the Commonwealth, and that was to keep all of the former British colonies together, still keep them together to a certain extent. So when Jamaica became independent, it decided that it would remain a part of the Commonwealth. Thus, if you're part of the Commonwealth, the monarch, the British monarch, who happens to be Queen Elizabeth in this case, is your head of state. The Governor General, who is appointed, is usually, in all of the instances that I am aware of in the Caribbean and other Commonwealth countries, is usually a local person who represents the Queen, the head of state, because those countries have decided to remain a part of the Commonwealth. When Trinidad, for instance, became a republic, the Queen, no longer the head of state, right? Trinidad has a prime minister and it has a president. The president in Trinidad, to a certain extent, is the equivalent of the Governor General. In the Commonwealth countries, the Governor General, for instance, has to assent to laws. Certain appointments are made and swearing in are done by the Governor General as well. In the case of Trinidad and Tobago, also Guyana, those roles, those functions are performed by the president. So the difference is that if you choose to remain a part of the Commonwealth, then the monarch is your head of state. In the case of the overseas territories, because we are not sovereign, because we are not independent, we are still British Overseas Territories citizen, and as such we are a part of the Commonwealth, but not as prominent a part of the Commonwealth as those countries that are independent but decide to remain a part of the Commonwealth as well. So I trust that explains the situation. If any of those other countries, Jamaica, for instance, decides that it's going to go to an executive presidency, and some of them have considered that as well, then they would abolish the post of Governor General. You would no longer have it. You would have a president. You would have a prime minister in most instances as well. So the Governor General is the head of state. He's not appointed from England. The appointment is made, but again, through protocols and the ceremonial process approved by the monarch, who is the head of state. I trust that explained that. Any calls on there for us, Paul? Okay. No calls. I wanted to bring to your attention, because we don't talk. Okay. No, I have to deal with this one first. Person says, and I apologize for this because they had written before. He says, I'm writing again to inquire if the applications for permanent residence, which have been deferred for whatever reasons, are going to be revisited. If yes, when? And can you get an indication of how many of these there are, and what are the major reasons for the deferral? So the person wants to know about the permanent residence applications that have still been deferred. How many applications have been deferred because the applicant missed the application window in 2009? When an application is deferred, is it an indefinite deferral? I would believe that if an application is deferred, that cannot be permanent, and there has to be a timeline to get those deferred applications heard. We have so many people caught up in this state of abeyance, and nothing is being done by government. Now, the person has written some more, and before I read the rest of it, I want to point out that if the Status and Permanent Residency Board defers an application, to me it would seem fit and proper for them to not only tell you that your application has been deferred, but they should tell you why it has been deferred, especially if it is a situation where they need additional information from you, or whether or not they're seeking additional information from elsewhere. As an applicant, you have the right to know more than just the fact that your application has been deferred. I believe that there were some issues in relation to the point system, and seeking legal advice, getting the proper legal guidance on it. But I will take this opportunity to note that there was a big, huge law firm, permanent law firm out there who was advocating for these permanent residents. But it seems as if, and I don't know, I can only guess, why are they no longer prominent in the news about these permanent resident applications? Have they already gotten what they wanted and no longer pursuing cases on other people's behalf, or have they completed most of those as well? I don't know. The question is, I don't know. So this person goes on to say, my application was deferred from 2014, and I had a meeting with a senior government official over it. I was advised that it was not my fault. I did nothing wrong. There was an issue with the immigration law due to oversight, which would be corrected. Yet I am here unable to get my PR reinstated after being revoked. I was a permanent resident dependent from 2003 and with employment rights from 2008, paying the PR fee of $20,650 annually. My husband left the island and went to live in England. He has long received residence in England. We were married for 10 years. We went to the same primary school, so it was not a marriage of convenience. We also have a daughter. I'm still here in Cayman, languishing on time and work permits after living here continuously for over 20 years. That is tragic. I have assets here. I have a granddaughter born here. I cannot even travel freely as I am here on time now. There's some more to this, and I will read it because I want to look into this and see whether or not any amendments to the immigration law, recent amendments to the immigration law, have addressed this person's situation. And I will say to that listener, please continue to listen in, because I will be following up on this and reading the rest of your letter as well. I believe we have a WhatsApp voice note. We're going to ask Paul to play that now as well. Paul?
And as I listen to that lady talking about the cable and the foreign station, one of the things when you have cable, they give you what they feel like give you. So I don't really have any cable. I listen to Radio Cayman and go on to the internet and watch the TV news, and that's all I watch. Because the thing they give you, sometimes you wonder if you are living in a real world.
Callers, those callers have a good point, but yet we say buy Caymanian, support Caymanian, and at the same time, they take your money and you don't get the quality, you don't get what you really, really want. The big question is, what are these various statutory authorities and boards that have been established? What are they doing about this? Where and when will we get some type of consumer protection legislation in the Cayman Islands so people don't have to keep forking out their money? You heard from Mr. Billy Samamba, a man with legal training, and he has difficulty navigating the regulatory waters of the Cayman Islands that are shark infested with vultures who will chew you up and swallow you whole. Where is the consumer protection legislation that we need? That question will remain out there. We're going to take a commercial break. When we return, For the Record will continue. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. Before we go to the phone lines, I want to thank Ms. Susan Watson, even though she's not behind the controls today. Mr. Paula Kai is there, but she has shared with us, and she says, has shared this information with us. Drivers who want to find out if their new car registration numbers or their plates are ready to be picked up can now check on the Department of Vehicles and Driver's Licensing website. It says, according to a press release from DVDL, the list of license plate numbers will be updated every 2 weeks, and the department is urging motorists to check the list periodically. If their new numbers are listed, motorists can immediately collect their registration plates from the department's Crew Road office. They should take in their current registration plate, windshield coupon, and logbooks when visiting to collect the new plates. The Crew Road office is open Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. This office will also be open on Saturdays. I think it's open from 9 a.m. to noon, specifically for the purpose of exchanging plates. I don't know. This may be an old message in that regard. I don't know if that policy is still in place, that they're open from 9 to noon on Saturdays as well. But like Captain Paul said, you know, he's from the old school. He doesn't have a computer. He can't log on. So DVDL may want to look at other options for those persons who don't have access to a computer. And maybe, don't want to promote any particular newspaper or anything like that, but maybe provide an insert. We have more than one newspaper in the Cayman Islands. Publish it every 2 weeks, the list of license plate numbers. It may be an inexhaustive list, and but let's see what we can get out there to help those persons who don't have access to a computer. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, OC. How are you? This is Alfonso.
Morning, Alfonso. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, too. I know you and I had a brief chat, and we need to find a date that we can come back on the show to kind of wrap up the celebrate Cayman Summer Festival.
Yes, yes. And today would have been a good day. The only problem is that I found out late, that I wouldn't have a guest this morning. I really had to figure it out myself to a certain extent that I wouldn't have a guest.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I can take short notices. If you get a break, you let me know.
I will. I certainly will.
Yeah, but I'm calling this morning to kind of relate back to that event on the 23rd of June.
Mm-hmm.
And the big highlight of the evening was the fireworks display that was put on by Cayman Firepower Graham Rankin, and because we keep getting positive feedback about that night and the whole day actually, and especially the fireworks.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to let everybody know you may have an inkling yourself, because I know you and Graham are close. Graham has actually been contracted by one of the largest fireworks companies in the Miami area.
Yep, he's up there now, waiting for tonight.
Right now, setting up fireworks. Can you believe that our own Caymanian Graham Rankin has been contracted by a Miami firm to do fireworks for the 4th of July celebration in the United States?
That's right. I think it was supposed to be held at a Marine base, but he's going to be at a different venue instead. Mm-hmm. Yes,
right.
And he's encouraging any Caymanian who's in the Miami area as well.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, it started off at the Marine base, but then they made it a lot bigger, and they could manage it there, so they moved into somewhere else. So right now, Graham is setting up. I don't know whether or not he couldn't answer me as to whether or not it would be on any of the large networks and stuff this evening, but it's going to be on 9 o'clock Miami time, 8 o'clock our time. If there's any way that anybody know how we can possibly view that in Cayman, I would advise or request that they let us know. But I want to say, congratulations to Graham. Obviously he's doing something right, and it's just another proud moment for me as a Caymanian to know that my schoolmate, my buddy, has done so well for himself that he's being recognized internationally for his work.
Yep.
Anyway, you have a good day, and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you very much, Fonzo, and we'll definitely be in touch. And whenever I see an opening, I will be in touch with you because I know you should be pretty flexible in terms of short notice, like you said.
Yeah, man. Let me know.
Okay. Thank you very much. Take care. You too. Okay. I think I have. If we close the phone lines off now, I can go and talk very briefly about the swearing in of the new justice. And I think it's going to actually take place today, because this is a news release from Barbados, and that was yesterday, and it says, tomorrow, the Caribbean Court of Justice, CJ, will see a change in leadership from Sir Dennis Byron to the CCJ's third president, Justice Adrian Saunders. And I think Justice Saunders is from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I believe. Says the transition will take place as a part of the activities before the 39th regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Governments of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, in Montego Bay, Jamaica. The event will be live streamed so that the public can also experience the event. In March of this year, it was announced that Justice Saunders, after an exhaustive international search, would be appointed as president of the court. He has been a judge at the CCJ since 2005 and has contributed immensely to the administration and judicial functions of the court. Justice Saunders is also chairman of the Caribbean Association of Judicial Officers and the course director of the Halifax-based Commonwealth Judicial Education Institute. Intensive Study Program. He is also one of the Institute's directors. Justice Saunders has also co-authored the book Fundamentals of Caribbean Constitutional Law and is a contributor editor of the Caribbean Civil Court Practice. In April 2018, he was appointed to the advisory board of the Global Judicial Integrity Network by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. He worked with Sir Dennis at the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court and was later reunited with him in 2011 when Sir Dennis was appointed president of the CCJ. So here we have a huge occasion taking place, but as it stands, I believe there are only 4 countries that are currently members of the Caribbean Court of Justice. There are only a few countries that are, and I will give you those countries in a minute. But the history of the CCJ, I don't have a whole lot of time, but I will talk about it as well. It's the Caribbean Court of Justice has 2 jurisdictions, an original jurisdiction and an appellate jurisdiction. In its original jurisdiction, the CCJ interprets and applies the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, which established the Caribbean Community and is an international court with compulsory and exclusive jurisdiction in respect of the interpretation of the treaty. That's the Treaty of Chaguaramas, right? In its appellate jurisdiction, the CCJ hears appeals as the court of last resort in both civil and criminal matters from those member states which have ceased to allow appeals to the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, which Dr. Steve McField referred to earlier. And this speaks to as of March 2015. I don't believe that it has changed since then. Only Barbados believes Dominica and Guyana have replaced Judicial Council of the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council's appellate jurisdiction with that of the CCJ. So with all of those members of CARICOM, as well as associate members of CARICOM, only 4 nations have chosen to be members of the CCJ and taken advantage of its jurisdiction in original matters as well as in appellate matters. And you heard Dr. Steve McField opine as to why other countries have not. But then when we look at all of the glowing credentials of the new president, Justice Adrian Saunders, and the reputable organizations that he has been a part of, why is it then that politicians can, in some way or the other, influence the decisions of the CCJ, and that is why so many other countries are reluctant to form the CCJ? Or are they brainwashed, like many of us have been, that only the UK, only our former colonial masters know the right way to do it and can do it the right way? No corruption exists in the UK. How wrong can we be? With that, I will say, folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman and, by extension, For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles, as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. I also want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. There is always someone out there who is less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want or those who crave. And it is my understanding that some of those who need today are those who are victims of a fire in West Bay, and we have provided that information earlier for you as well. There's an individual by the name of, trying to bring it up on the WhatsApp, still trying to bring it up on the WhatsApp. There's an individual who has promised that they will take anything for male or female. That person's name is Miss Carmelie Watson. Her number is 917-3729 to assist those fire victims in West Bay as well. So here's an opportunity for you to assist those who are less fortunate than we are, who have experienced a tragic situation in their life. Please do what you can to help. I say to you, have a great day. Continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Sterling Dwayne Ebanks at 12 noon for talk today. And as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these three beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands.
Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record.